You're making me play all the nicest sounds today, Nigel. I've noticed this.
Your embouchure. It's super important because this is where the sound starts on your saxophone. But if you get it wrong, it can really cause problems with your saxophone playing. So today, I've got Joel from the tutor team here.
Hi.
To help me to describe the two different types of embouchure that you're going to come across as a saxophone player. Also, how these differ and how you know which one might be right for you. And then we're going to share with you 5 mistakes that we see saxophone players make all the time with embouchure, both when we're teaching at Sax School and when you're teaching at the conservatorium as well.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, embouchure is really important. It's the bit where your body meets the saxophone. It's where a lot of the sounds created and a lot of the issues occur.
Yeah, and if we can avoid these 5 issues, you'll be on track. So stick around, we've got lots to talk about today. I can't wait to get started. G'day, it's Nigel here from Sax School. Thanks for joining me for another video. This is Joel Pennell from the tutor team.
Hi, how are you doing? Good to be in the control centre.
Good to have you at Sax School HQ. Hey, if it's your first time joining us for a video, then welcome. It's great to have you with us today. And if you enjoy videos like this, it'll really help us if you give us a subscribe, a thumbs up, a like, comment, all that sort of stuff. You know, we like making these videos, Joel, don't we? But
love it.
Don't you think it's great when we hear from you guys that you enjoy it too? It just lets us know that we're making lessons that actually help you. So lots to talk about today, and I think this is a really, really important topic. I bet you spend a lot of time at the conservatorium talking to your students about embouchure.
A lot of time about embouchure, particularly in their first year. They come in with all sorts of different types of embouchures, and there's generally always something that could be tweaked just to make life easier, because that's what it's about. You know, it's about making it easier.
Absolutely, and there you go. So you're talking to quite advanced, experienced players. So if you're an experienced player, it's good to revisit the embouchure discussion. And if you're a brand new player, it's also so important to, you know, understand the different types of embouchure concepts, I suppose, and to explore how you're using your embouchure too, so that you can improve your skills. Now, we've got a bunch of free resources that will help you to put into action all the things we're going to be talking about today. And we keep all of our free things inside the Sax School locker. There's a load in there, isn't there?
There's a lot of stuff in there.
There's a lot of stuff. It's all completely free, and you can register for it if you haven't already from the courses page of our site, saxschoolonline.com. I'll put a link down below. Go check it out. It's free to register, and there's a bunch of great resources in there. Okay, so let's get started talking about the first type of embouchure. The first embouchure model. You like to call it the classical embouchure, don't you?
I do, yes.
Which kind of, you know, okay, I don't really agree with it, but okay. So for today, what we're going to call it, I've got the classical embouchure and you've got the jazz embouchure.
Let's call it that, yeah.
Rightio. So basically, these are two contrasting embouchure styles, and these are what you're most likely going to see on YouTube. Because, hey Joel, you must see this at the conservatorium, and we do see it amongst our Sax School students too. People that go looking on the internet, on the interwebs, on YouTube videos to try and understand embouchure, and you get like 15 different versions of how to do it. Yeah. And people get really confused, don't they?
Yeah. There's a lot of different information out there, and then also when you watch your favourite artists, you see all sorts of variants of embouchures. You know, we're all different at the end of the day, but I think we're going to deal with the two main ones that are worth considering or applying to your own playing.
I think everything kind of comes from these main two concepts of embouchure. So understanding both of them, you can find somewhere in between them that will suit you. So the classical saxophone embouchure. Essentially what we're talking about here is using your bottom lip to make a cushion for the reed. And the way I teach students to do this in Sax School, if you think about saying something like VOO, V-O-O, VOO. So if you go VOO, your bottom lip bunches up a little bit, and the fleshy part at the top goes over your bottom teeth. That's right, isn't it? Your bottom teeth, and the reed rests on that. Top teeth go on top of the mouthpiece. You make a nice seal, a bit like a drawstring bag. If you pull it in, it goes like this. To make a nice seal around the mouthpiece, and then you're away. So VOO, bottom lip over your teeth a little bit, making a cushion, top teeth on, making a seal. Right, Joel, that's the classical embouchure. Tell us quickly how the jazz embouchure differs to that.
So the difference with the jazz embouchure is it's a bit more of an open embouchure. Jerry Begonzi, I love this term for it, calls it the no embouchure embouchure. So basically what it involves is instead of tucking your entire lip over your bottom teeth, what you do is imagine taking your thumb, pushing it up against your top teeth. Just open your mouth and forget about embouchures. Like that. And then you just shut your bottom lip. And what you should find is if you were to then suck your thumb, you'll find that what you suck in is this very muscular band just on your inner lip. So your outer lip stays out and your inner lip becomes the cushion. And you'll also find with this is you end up taking in a bit more of the mouthpiece into your mouth, which can really counteract wanting to bite, for example, which we'll talk about later.
Awesome. So as opposed to thinking about your bottom lip going over your teeth, you've got the bottom lip going out and using the inner part of the lip as the cushion, really.
That's right, yeah.
And you're still having to make a seal, but it's a lot looser.
It's a lot looser.
And did you find when you changed to this embouchure, because you started off with an embouchure like me, did you find that you had to change your mouthpiece or your reed setup?
No, I didn't find that there was any significant changes that I needed to make, but what I did find is I got a lot more sound out and a lot more personality out of it. And I think that's really, you know, the thing here with this classical versus jazz. From a classical point of view, they're trying to get a very consistent classical sound, and maybe from a jazz point of view, we're trying to get a much more personal sound, where we're kind of expressing ourselves through our tone as much as anything else. So I think that's one of the key things to understand here. It depends what you're after from the point of view of your sound, you know. So that's important, I think, to point out.
Interesting. So can you give us a quick demo then, maybe of one versus the other?
Sure.
So let's have a listen to what it would sound like. You don't play this way anymore, but if you were using your old style embouchure.
So on this one, I'm gonna tuck this lip a bit further in and come a little bit back towards the tip.
It still sounds good to me, but...
And I played like that professionally for at least 15 years, you know, but I found that there were certain issues that I had that I just couldn't rectify no matter how much practice I did, particularly in the lower end.
So let's have a listen to if you go all full jazz embouchure. Interesting. So I don't know if you can hear it at your end, but in the studio here, definitely you've got a bigger sound.
Yes.
It's wider, there's more colours in there, and you're getting a lot more volume in there as well.
Much more volume. And I think one of the reasons for that is all my pressure's down pressure now. This lip is not pushing up on this lower reed, so restricting it. And also because I'm a bit further on the mouthpiece, I'm getting more length to the reed, and that's giving that more sound and more volume.
Awesome. So look, we're going to get on with the 5 mistakes that we see people make, but I hope this has given you some ideas. And one thing I just want to say is, if you're transitioning from one of these to the other, that it's a process you need to go through, right? You need to build up your embouchure muscles. And I think, well, this is an interesting question too. I prefer to teach newer students, people that are brand new to saxophone, somewhere closer to my version. Would you start new students the way you do it?
Yes.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
That's why I love having you on the tutor team, Joel, because we do things very, very differently, you and me. And I think we still both get great results, but I love the contrasting.
Variety is the spice of life.
Yeah, because different things will suit different people, right? So there's different challenges for either of these embouchure styles, and we'll cover those in a minute in our 5 mistakes that we see people make. But just before we get on to that, let me know in a comment down below, which of these do you use? Do you use more of a classical type embouchure, or do you use more of a lip out jazz embouchure? Let me know in a comment down below. Rightio, let's get stuck in with these 5 mistakes. I think this is important because if you can avoid these 5 mistakes, you'll be well on your way to having a good solid embouchure that's going to help you make the sort of sound that you really want to make on saxophone. The very first mistake that I see a lot of people make is they use too little mouthpiece. Not using enough mouthpiece is going to make your sound really constricted. It's going to make it difficult for you to get a really big sound. So if you find yourself right at the tip of your mouthpiece and your sound's a little bit thin, then maybe that's the problem. Just revisit where you're up to with how much mouthpiece you've got in your mouth. So would you say the second mistake that we see people make is the opposite?
Too much in. So if you've got a very kind of squawky sound, if you can't control particularly the upper register, then you've probably got too much in. Where we're aiming for is if you look at your reed from the side and where it actually makes contact with the mouthpiece, so you'll see that little V of light disappear at that point. we want wherever we're making contact to be at that point. Now that's quite hard to do because it's inside your mouth, but it gives you a good gist. So something that you can try to just check this out is if you start with a top side D, so over here on the side D, and you put lots and lots of the mouthpiece in and you try and get that top D out, you're going to get probably a middle D. It'll probably split downwards. Shall I demonstrate that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is me with too much in.
That sounds awesome. I love the sound of that.
Yeah. So just edge back very slowly. So keep that embouchure place and just move back millimetre at a time until that D rings out. And then from a safety point of view, maybe come back another millimetre and you'll probably find the sweet spot.
I love that, Joel. That's a really simple, easy, practical way that you can try. Because I know there's plenty of students that get that sort of squawky, ducky sound and don't know what on earth to do. So just backing off a little bit with your mouth.
Backing off a little bit, yeah. So it's just finding that sweet spot. Too close to the tip, you're going to be restricting your sound and getting a really thin sound. Too far on, and you've gone the other direction. It's got all squawky and duck-like.
So the third mistake we see lots of people making is biting too hard, using too much pressure. And this is definitely a problem if you're starting with that more of a classical concept to your embouchure. So for a lot of people, particularly if you're brand new to saxophone, you haven't got any muscle strength here yet, it's easy to fall into that trap of compensating for the lack of strength in your embouchure by biting. So we see like a lateral up and down type pressure. And that can cause all sorts of problems. Biting too hard is going to make your sound feel very constricted, but it's also going to make your lip really, really sore. So if you're finding that you're getting a sore lip, maybe you're biting too hard and it's time to just relax a little bit more. And the other thing, just a quick tip on that one, is just like with anything that you're doing physically, when you're just getting started with it, little and often is the best tactic. So build up your stamina, build up your embouchure muscles gradually by doing a little bit of practice, but doing it every single day and gradually extending that amount of time that you've got the saxophone in your mouth and you're playing. So what about the fourth mistake we see people make, Joel?
So this is going to be too much lower lip out. So what we're talking about here is really what we want to see from the side is we want to see our lips parallel. So the same on both sides of the mouthpiece. If we see one too far forwards, so an underbite, or too far out, which is what we're talking about here, too much lip, once again, you've not got the right type of support. You're on this really weak outside part of the lip rather than actually using this muscular band, which by the way we're using in both of these embouchures. You're just tucking over it, I'm just using it on its own basically, and that's maybe another difference to point out. So this is what that'd sound like.
So it sounds really uncontrolled to me.
Yeah, you're making me play all the nicest sounds today, Nigel. I've noticed this. so just bringing it back and getting it parallel now. So.
That sounds much nicer.
It does. Thank you. I'm glad.
Okay, so there's one last mistake that we see happen a lot, particularly with brand new players, and that is to just be in general too loose with your embouchure. If you're finding that you struggle to get any of the notes as you get up, like maybe up to an octave G, if those notes just don't sound for you, or if you find that you're really out of tune, if you're checking yourself with your tuner and you're really, really flat and you just can't get it into tune, it could be that you're too loose.
Without a doubt, yeah. So once again, I'm not going to demonstrate this one. But yeah, I mean, we've got to think about, we've got to form the seal. And that's important from an airflow. Sometimes you may hear yourself with air escaping. That's another sign that you maybe not, you're a bit too loose on that embouchure. But the key thing is we don't want to bite, as we've already said. So instead of focusing about vertical tightness, this kind of jaw tightness, we need to focus about horizontal tightness. You said the drawstring earlier. Some people call it the elastic band, but we want to use the corners of the mouth. And what we don't want to do with it, though, is we don't want this smile, because that's going to force us to bite. We want, I like to call it, happy emoji versus sad emoji. So we really want to focus on keeping it loose here, but tight. So you can think about your chin muscle here. So we get this kind of motion there, and that makes a big difference, because if we don't want to I will play. Go on then. I will play. So this is what it sounds like if I bite too much. This is what it sounds like if I've not got enough pressure. And this is what it sounds like if I do it just right.
So it's like Goldilocks, right? Not too much, not too little, just right.
Yeah, that sweet spot is what we're looking for in our position along the mouthpiece and our tightness and our support of our embouchure.
Awesome, guys. There's so much stuff we've covered today. We've talked about the classical embouchure. We've talked about the jazz embouchure. We've talked about those 5 mistakes: having too little mouthpiece, having too much mouthpiece, biting too hard, using too much lip, or being too loose. Have a think about your playing and let me know if any of those resonate with you. Are you making any of those mistakes? It's okay to admit them. Let me know in a comment down below, because once we identify these mistakes, it might just, open a doorway for you or put a light bulb on where you suddenly realize what you can fix to really transform your playing. So speaking of transforming your playing, don't forget to grab the resources in the locker.
Yeah.
Honestly, we make these things for you for free to help you. So it's all available. There's no catch. Register from the courses page of the website. And if you really want to dig into things more, there's so much waiting for you inside Sax School Pro. Joel, you've been making some amazing courses inside Sax School Pro. And we've also got courses from Dean and Fred and Chris. And in fact, there's over 1,000 lessons and courses and masterclass replays inside Sax School Pro. So if you're curious to know a bit more about it, as we're filming this right now, we still have a 14-day trial running. You can go and stick your toe in the water, check out some of Joel's courses, check out some of my courses or any of the other tutors, connect with our community, attend one of our masterclasses, or even get involved in one of our monthly challenges. It's all waiting for you at Sax School Pro, and you can find that at saxschoolonline.com on the courses page. Most importantly though, keep having fun with your saxophone. Spend this week thinking about your embouchure, and I'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye. I'm just trying to... Come here, smile muscles. A bit small, I smiled.
You gotta get your smiling fitness up.